Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. My name is Nakia Wright. I am the chair of the Faith Based Advisory Board, and I am honored to be before you on this evening. I have with me Veda McCoy, who is the leader of the subcommittee for the Faith Based Advisory Board, and I have Dr. Kia Mcdaniel, who is the Director of Curriculum and Instruction for Prince George's County Schools. Please make sure that you share this with our listening audience because tonight is going to be extremely impactful. And I do believe that it's going to answer some of the questions that you may have or concerns that you may have in reference to our teachers and students going back to school. If you're just joining us for the very first time, the Faith Based Advisory Board was put in place by our very own County Executive Angela Alsobrooks when she took office. Her goal was for us to bridge the communication between the faith-based community and the government entities. The Faith-Based Advisory Board is overseen by Reverend Charles McNeil, myself, the chair, and our co-chair, Dr. Sharon Anderson. We are honored to serve in this capacity, and it has been our heart's desire to be a relevant answer to the religious leaders right here in Prince George's County. As I said today, we're going to be discussing the reopening of schools in Prince George's County. We've come through something none of us ever even imagined. And as we're trailblazing and traveling through the unknown, we're trying to be intentional in the answers we provide. Prince George's County has been true trailblazers in every sense of the word, where the only constant you can depend on is the unknown. And while you're in the unknown, I have been a witness to everyone rising to the occasions, and we may not always get it right the first time. We've never lived through this before, but we are vowing to be everything that the residents of Prince George's County need in order to be a success. I am going to introduce to some and present to others Dr. Kia Mcdaniel. I'm going to read her bio. After I get finished reading her bio, I am going to turn it over. You've heard her week in and week out. Um, Vita McCoy and her panel of education lists have been so vital in getting the information out to our religious community, not only through town hall lives, but through a bi-monthly newsletter. Please make sure that you not only like the Faith-Based Advisory Board page, but subscribe to the newsletter. If you have not done so, you can do so by sending an email to pgfb ab@gmail.com. It is extremely informative. And the best thing that you can be armed with is information. It is highly impactful and it will answer many of your questions that you may have on a daily basis. Dr. Kia McDaniel has dedicated her career to supporting and developing equitable educational opportunities for culturally and linguistic diverse students. It's 7 o'clock. I'm warning you. And my words may not come out as clear as they did at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So please bear with me as I read her bio. She is currently the Director of Curriculum and Instruction in Prince George's County Public Schools, which educates over 130,000 students. Previously, Dr. McDaniel held positions as a classroom teacher, a reading specialist, an ESOL teacher, a supervisor of ESOL, and coordinating supervisor of specialty programs. I got through it. God, I thank you. Again, I introduce to some, I present to others, both Vita McCoy and Dr. Kia McDaniel. Um, Vita McCoy, in your role as a principal, as an educator, as a leader in our community, can you please share with us how you and your staff are preparing the return of our phenomenal students here in Prince George's County?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Wright, to Reverend McDaniel, our illustrious leader, your fellow co-chair, Dr. Anderson. I am so grateful to be here and for the opportunity to serve on the education subcommittee. To Dr. McDaniel, thank you so much for being here and representing our illustrious leader, Dr. Golson. At the school level, as an instructional leader of a school, the first thing that we have to focus on is carrying out the vision of Prince George's County Public Schools. And that was to go back to a hybrid model of instruction, which includes a combination of in-person and a continuation of the distance learning opportunities. So as the principal, I basically ensured my staff that safety was a concern. To prepare for the return of students, we had to prepare for the return of staff because they have been teaching in the distance learning context. And so my focus was on giving them as much information as possible with as much advance notice, time to plan, time to breathe through it, including them on decisions. We have the COVID compliance committee that each school was directed to set up, which was to be have representatives from every aspect of employees for the schools, making sure that it was as a clear line as possible to what they were hearing from one platform to the next. Also to allow parents to play a role in that and to give them information. So I think that knowledge is power. Knowledge brings about unity. And following the roadmap, we have been provided with wonderful roadmaps and guides, the operational guides, reopening plans, checklists, and sharing that. My philosophy around leadership is distributive because you cannot do the job of leading a school by yourself. And when we started a little over a year ago, I told my staff that we would get through, of course, the end of the 2020 school year, see what the summer held. And then when we came back in the fall, we realized we were still in the distance learning context. So I told them that our mission is still the same, our vision is still the same, but we just had to now include the distance learning context and helping them, leading them, guiding them through, leaning into their discomfort, allowing their dreams for our students to be larger than our fears. And there's no such thing as failure, there's only falling forward. And being that transformational, inspirational leader, but also building the confidence of my staff by giving them accurate information and ensuring that they knew that their safety was important to me. And that was modeled when they returned to school on yesterday, just making sure that they were safe and following the guidelines of Dr. Golson and her staff.
That is excellent. And let me interject for one moment. I did not mean to not acknowledge Dr. Goldstein. She has been amazing. I had the honor of sharing space with her on last week, and we just wanted her as leaders in Prince George's County to know that we're praying with her and for her. And we've never been here before. We had to pivot at a moment's notice, and Prince George's County schools pivoted in 30 days, a plan that could have taken 3 years. And that is highly commendable. Kia, you heard some of the things that Mrs. McCoy discussed as she is gearing her teachers to come back to school. There are many parents that have questions as it pertains to how the school is going to interact with the new COVID regulations. Can you just share with some of the things that the school system has done to make sure that the return of the students has been safe?
Absolutely. And thank you again for the invitation to participate this evening. And so, as you mentioned, we turned around and had an amazing reopening committee pulled together and look at what was being done around the state, around the nation, and took some of those best practices to develop our own reopening plan that we're continuously revising to make sure that we meet the needs of our teachers, staff, and students. And so that reopening guide is extensive and actually was rated one of the top in the state. As if you were on our board meetings, you heard Dr. Golson mention. And so there we have all the operational pieces. We have, so what should be done, as Ms. McCoy mentioned, with establishing the teams at the school, the places in the school building. If there's any suggestion that a student isn't feeling well and where students should go, all of those different pieces there, as well as the numbers of students in the building and how we're moving into the hybrid model of instruction. And so we're obviously using the hybrid model so we can provide students with access to face-to-face instruction 2 days a week, and then 3 days they're going to continue in distance learning. We will continue to use Wednesdays for small group instruction, and at the building level, that's for our deep cleaning. And so with that structure, students are going to attend school back-to-back days. So we have our cohorts of students that attend Monday and Tuesday so that they are together as a cohort. We have the deep cleaning of the building on Wednesday where no one is in the building, and then our second cohort on Thursdays and Fridays. So as we return to the school buildings, we'll continue to implement our curriculum for all of our content areas. Students, whether they're going to remain at home or they come to school in the building. And teachers have really been receiving training, both from our technology team and our content offices, which I have the pleasure of working with, on how to really facilitate collaborative activities and class discussions with students, whether they're virtual or in front of you. So utilizing the techniques to be able to engage with kids there, but still virtually. And so we know that that's not easy. We know that we're going to continue to refine our practice around that, but that we have given teachers the tools and platforms to utilize to make sure they're able to get the content across to students. So with that being said, it is imperative that you make sure your child brings their device to school every day. And so if you have elected for your child to participate in the hybrid model, we want them to have their backpacks, we want them to have their lunches, everything they're bringing, but that now includes their device that's been given to them from the school system to bring that in each day, because we're still going to be utilizing a lot of online resources within our classroom as we're teaching students.
That is excellent information. So let me just clarify two things. One, if a child does show signs of COVID, that there is a difference between the room that they take a child in and a nursing's office. So the room, each school has established a care room, and that room is where they will give a child a rapid COVID test if they display symptoms of having COVID. Now, each school, Veda, and you can help me with this, each school has developed their own messaging system to make sure that parents and guardians are accurately notified should one of the students test positive for COVID. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have a care room where the students go if they are demonstrating signs or symptoms of COVID, and we call the families immediately, and they have a short time window span to come and pick the students up. And one of the things that we did, and I must say that parents, having the meetings with parents, so if you're listening to this, get connected. And we've been telling our community this for the entire time that we've had this platform. You must be connected to your schools and the school district's communication pipeline, because that is how information is pushed out. And so at my school, we have what we call PTO, principal corner meetings, but I've also been having huddles and passing this information along. And one of the things that we put out in our plan was for our staff members to spend the last 2 or 3 weeks making sure that you have accurate information for the parents and the family members of those students who have the families elected for them to return for in-person learning, because it is absolutely imperative that we are able to reach them if we need them to come and pick up their children or child because he or she may not be feeling well, or they are demonstrating that those symptoms. There's also an honor system where we ask them there's a checklist that we provided parents where we ask them to kind of just take a quick inventory, if you will, of your child's health status before you send the child to school. So we're working together as a school community and making sure that when we come into the building that we are safe. And the staff does the same thing. It's on an honor code, I'm sorry, on an honor system where we're all saying, I am healthy to the best of my knowledge. It's suitable for me and appropriate for me to be in the school building.
One of the things that I believe came out of this pandemic is the appreciation for who the teachers are, who the principals
Mhm.
are, and who administrators are. So it is my heart's desire that as parents are listening to this, that they expand the capacity of their grace as we navigate through the returning of the schools, because there's some incidences where it is going to be by trial. And while we're trying to make sure we keep your children safe, we need your help. We need to make sure that you send your child to school with their mask. We're asking that you put extra mask in the bag. You can go old school at the beginning of the year. You have a supply list of things to bring to school. While I heard Dr. Goldstein say today that all classrooms will have Clorox wipes in the school, please, by all means, make sure that your child has Clorox wipes, make sure your child has hand sanitizers, because we're stronger together. Together, we can protect one another, and being armed with information and ammunition during this time to prevent the spread of COVID is what our ultimate goal is. Now, Dr. McDaniel, we did discuss that the Parent Support Center has been heavily used throughout this pandemic. It was an excellent idea and a great resource for us parents. Now, will that continue throughout the remainder of the school year?
Absolutely, absolutely. So as Ms. McCoy mentioned, make sure that you're connected with your school community, but even outside of that, those parent centers will be open in the evening now for you to access. So if there's a question about anything related to instruction, related to procedures, you can reach out to the Parent Support Center to get those questions answered.
And to my understanding, only 30% of the children in Prince George's County opted to return to school. Is that number correctly? And when you break down those numbers, it more than likely will not be more than 3 to 4 students per classroom on an average basis. Is that correct?
That's
That is,
about
oh,
right. I'm sorry, Ms. McCoy, go ahead.
no, sure. We have exactly 32% of our students are returning. It's split half and half. Most of the students are coming to school on Thursday and Friday. Not sure about that. I guess it's a little closer to the weekend for some moms and dads. No, it's by alphabet. But I thought it was a way to make some humor in this sometimes tense situation. So, but they are coming to school. Our largest class is 7, but you're right, on the average, we have some as small as 1, some classes with 2, and then we have some about 7. So on the average, you're absolutely right with your data that it is about 3 or 4 on an average per classroom. And with colleagues across the school district, it is the same.
That's excellent. And faith leaders, as you are giving your intercessors instructions on week in and week out, include the teachers, because not only will they be doing in-class teaching, they'll also still have the responsibility of teaching the children virtually as well. So we want to make sure that as faith leaders that we include them in our prayers, because it's definitely going to be needed. But for those parents that are listening, it is my heart's desire that you found just a tad bit of peace in the fact that the classrooms will not be overpopulated. And in addition to that, we want to commend those students who have been doing extremely well in distance learning. We have to make sure that we acknowledge you. Distance learning is not for every student, and I'm grateful that the opportunity to go back into the classroom, but we're wired for connection. So I'm grateful that those kids that learn better in person now has the opportunity to recover some of their grades. Now, Dr. McDaniel, we did not discuss this prior to, but and if this is something that you want to address later, by all means, there's some students who did not do well the first and second quarter. Will there be some sort of recovery program for them to be able to recover some of their grades so that we won't have so many students who do not get to progress to the next grade?
Absolutely. So we're doing everything that we can to give our students multiple opportunities to submit their work. so that they can get the best grade possible. And of course, we want them to learn the material more importantly. And so just providing those multiple opportunities, looking at our administrative procedures to make sure that that the grades that are given are in alignment with our procedures, and that we're just extending grace to our students, just as was extended to our teachers and to our staff, that we might need additional time to get assignments done, to make sure that we are not over assigning work, but we are providing them with access to the curriculum. And there are that independent work that students are going to participate in, that they get grades for, but that we are making sure that they have an opportunity and the actual time to complete that work.
That is great. Now, one thing that many seniors will want to hear, as I was listening to Dr. Goldstein present to the county council on this morning, one of the questions was asked is, will the seniors be able to have an actual graduation this year? And Dr. Goldstein said that you all are working on making that possible, that there are 2 outside locations that you all are considering. So seniors, you can kind of sort of get ready for some anticipation of excitement of actually putting on your cap and gown and walking, because the school is working on provisions to make sure that you all have that experience. Isn't that something that many of the kids live for? Like, we worked for 12 years. We want to walk across this stage. So I
Absolutely.
was happy to hear that this is going to be taking place. And another thing that Dr. Goldstein shared, and either of you can jump in on this, that again, there are some students that are doing extremely well in the distance virtual learning environment. And the next school year, the next fall semester, when we start back up again, that you will have the option to go to school virtually versus coming back into the school building. Dr. McDaniel, can you just expand upon that if you have any?
Sure. Yeah. So we've learned a lot through this pandemic. And as you mentioned, we were able to flip into virtual instruction and make that just as rigorous as our face-to-face and daily instruction. And we know that, online instruction is not for everyone, but there are some students who are really thriving in an online environment, and it works for them. And so we're working in committee to create a virtual campus for students to be able to have the opportunity to continue online for next school year. And so we're in the process of developing that. And so you can keep looking at our social media and on our website about an opportunity to participate in that for the fall. Will be coming up after we have everything outlined and the appropriate grade levels. But we're in the throes of looking at the instructional model for that, looking at how we can adapt our curriculum to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the students who do elect to participate in a virtual campus, and of course the staff that would be needed to be able to support the virtual campus as well.
That is
And I think, Dr. Wright, if I could just add that the resources that have been made available to staff and students during this pandemic and distance learning that resulted are absolutely amazing. And for at the excuse me, at the school level, we saw students who had attention challenges or who would succumb to peer pressure to maybe stand out a little bit, whether it's in their behavior or what have you. They were able to be focused, and some of them were more technologically, they learn better in that kind of learning modality suits them better. And so it is true that some of them have really thrived, and we worked hard at Avalon to make sure that the parents and the students knew that this was not a free year. You did not have the year off. And so to all the parents and students and faith community leaders who are listening, please be sure to communicate that to the people in your networks, to your members, to your family members. This is not a free year. When you move on to the next grade, you will be expected to know what was taught, the standards, and all of the elements and components of the curriculum that were included for school year 2021. And we want our students to be at levels of proficiency or mastery. And so it is important that they take even these final 2 months as we are still learning. I said to my staff when they returned yesterday that the rock stars of Avalon have been in the trenches since August. We took it seriously from day one, and we've been showing up for our scholars every day. And we just need for the entire circle to be equal and as equally full and present. And so for these last couple of months, take it seriously. It counts, it still matters. And we definitely want all of our students, including those who need this in-person opportunity, to take advantage of all of the planning that we have seen go into a quality instruction for our students.
This is excellent. This is excellent. This is excellent. One of the questions that we had come in on this evening, and we briefly referenced it prior to our start, is the mental capacity of what this time has weighed on our children. And one of the things that I am very appreciative of is how the guidance counselors have been there for the students. And I'll just ask you to piggyback off of this, Dr. McDaniel. I do know that the guidance counselors will continue to be a reference for the children, whether you're in person or you're virtual. If you, this time it has weighed heavily on us as adults, and I know that it's had some capacity on our children as well. And we want to make sure that we talk through difficult moments with our children and not just assume that they're not aware. Communication is effective. Communication is key in moments of change. Dr. McDaniel, would you like to just expound upon what the school system is doing to help the mental capacity of our children?
Absolutely. So students will continue, as you mentioned, to have access to their guidance counselors, to whether they come face to face or online. And we've also implemented social emotional learning within our day for students. So even with their teachers in their classes, we had some training just yesterday with teachers on how you can engage students in conversation to check in to see how they're doing and to allow them some time to speak to one another. And of course, we speak about academic tasks all the time, all day long through our curriculum and breakout groups, but even to just allow them to talk about how they're doing with one another, to ask each other questions, to have that social connection with one another, whether they are online or face to face as well.
Excellent. Ms. McCoy, would you like to add anything to that? Anything that Avalon is doing?
Yes, yesterday's training, it's funny that that came up because as I walked around today just to check on the staff, make sure they had everything they needed, one of my teachers said, and the training yesterday, Mrs. McCoy, was so good. And she was telling me about how she was gonna have, now she would have 2 monitors, and she felt so much more equipped. And it was good to see her smiling about it and breathing through it. That, that's my phrase, breathe through it. And so the social emotional learning, we carved out a specific time in our master schedule every day that is a part of it. And as Dr. McDaniel said, there are different ways to do that. And even in the virtual space, one thing that our guidance counselor does when we have PBIS assemblies or honor roll assemblies, he'll give like a 30-second countdown or a 60-second countdown where everyone can unmute themselves and just talk and say hi. And you can imagine how it goes from absolute like silence, everybody on mute, to hi, and people they haven't seen. And we've taught them how to, scroll over so that they can see other people that are also on the platforms. And it really is something that, of course, it took some getting used to for all of us, but it is something that they look forward to. So that is something that will continue.
Oh, that is great information. That is so good to know. Time is something that many of us do not have a lot of, and I wanted to make sure that tonight was impactful but not lengthy. As we discuss all of what I believe to be all of the important components to the return to school, ladies, as we work to conclude this moment, I'll start with you, Dr. McDaniel, and then I'll go with Veda. Share some parting words, some wisdom, some encouragement, because not only is it the students going back to school, it's the teachers going back to school as well. So would you like to just share some last words of encouragement, sentiments as we conclude this moment?
I would just like to say thank you for entrusting us with your children.
Mhm.
I know how hard this is, whether you're returning back face to face or keeping students in the full virtual environment. The decision was a hard one for many families. And so, whatever decision you made, we're going to make sure that your child has access to the curriculum, that your child continues to grow and thrive and gain the knowledge of their content area, and that whatever format we return next year and whatever format you choose for them to return next year, that they're going to be ready for that content. And we're going to have some fun. We're going to make sure that we continue to engage students while exposing them to the content. And I know we answered a lot of questions here, but we will also be having a teletown hall on Monday evening that you can call into if you have any other questions that come up after you thought through some of the information that was presented this evening.
Excellent. Mrs. McCoy.
Thank you so much. I too want to say thank you. And I want to thank Dr. McDaniel for coming on. I would like to thank the parents, the staff, and the students of Prince George's County Public Schools for your vote of confidence. And that means so much because whatever your decision may be, you are giving us an opportunity to play a role in your child's future. I was watching the news coverage, I believe it's Channel 4, covered Dr. Golson's visit to William Wirt on yesterday. And I can tell you that that is not a pony show. That is not pomp and circumstance. What is happening at what you saw in that news coverage is happening at every school or has been directed to happen at every school and is in process. And so continue to have confidence in us, continue to give us the grace that you mentioned a little earlier. I said this to my staff and yesterday, that anything that I thought of that could be done to make your return safe, that was first, or any resource that I thought could make the continuation of the job that you do with such passion more effective, I sought to get it done. But there's also your voice. Every voice matters. Every person at the table has something to offer. So continue to dial into those town halls. They are designed where there are different departments that will speak across a series of them. Subscribe to the PGCPS Engage newsletter for families. That is so important that you are connected to that piece. Update your information on School Max. Make sure that it is accurate. At Avalon, we have what we call School Max Mondays. Just put it on your calendar around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, whatever time of day that you check in with your child's how they are doing academically and with their attendance. And that's really all that I have to say. This is an awesome network. I think that I hope that you will continue to connect with us. And thank you once again. And thank you to our county executive and to the committee who allows us to try and bring information, resources, and tools to the members of our faith community.
Absolutely. Ladies, I echo each one of your sentiments. Again, tonight has been extremely impactful. Faith leaders, I will just say to you, I will charge you to pray for everyone here, our leadership, our parents, our teachers, our students. We're stronger together. We need one another in order to be successful. That we're all going through this together for the very first time. And again, I'll just say, echo the sentiments I said earlier, is add some grace to your patience, add some capacity to your wiggle room to try something new for the very first time. Trust the science and trust the people that is in place to have leadership over the say-so of our students and our teachers. It has been an honor to serve with you ladies on this evening. It's been an honor to serve Prince George's County, and I look forward to what we will call, we'll never go back to a place called normal. So I look forward to creating our new norms with you all. And as Mrs. McCoy said, that we'll continue to be an answer, we'll continue to be a reliable source of information. So please make sure that you're following the Faith-Based Advisory Board page. Be sure that you're following the Prince George's County School Facebook page. There's vital information that's put out as, and listen, during this time, things are constantly changing. So make sure that you are connected to a resource that's giving you accurate information. And again, on Monday evening at what time, Dr. McDaniel?
That is at 7 o'clock.
Monday evening at 7 o'clock on the Prince George's County Public School social media page. They will be having a return to school forum. I probably renamed it, but that's what they're going to be talking about. Make sure that you tuned in. Education is power. Knowledge is empowerment. So we have to make sure that we're empowered to do better and be informed. On behalf of myself, the chair of the Faith-Based Advisory Board, we thank you for joining us on this evening, and we look forward to talking to you very soon. Be safe, wear your mask, and we'll see you soon.